I recently read a post that said, when people move from Europe to Africa, they are doing voyages of discovery. When Africans move to Europe, they are called illegal immigrants. A group of Africans in Europe are refugees. A group of Europeans in Africa are tourists. A group of Africans in the bush are known as poachers. A group of Europeans in the bush are called hunters. African people working in a foreign country are foreigners. White people working in Africa or a foreign country are expatriates. When European missionaries started churches in Africa, they were called mission churches. And later, those churches became mainline churches and are still known as mainline churches. When Africans start churches in Europe, they are called immigrant churches or black churches. Three things got me going. A few decades ago, I went to Edinburgh for my postgraduate studies under the support of the then Church Mission Society. I was not told which church to attend, but occasionally I was invited to a church or to participate in a CMS weekend if there was any. As a postgraduate student, I met many students in the then Center for the Study of Christianity in the Non-Western World, which is Center of World Christianity today. The students came from different parts of the world, and one of the things we ask ourselves as mature students is, which church do you go to? And so we asked students who are there earlier, and some would say, I go to Presbyterian, I go to Episcopal, I go to the Quakers, So people went to different churches. And so we decided to shop around, some of us, which church will we go to? Even if it's a tradition you belong to, you want to check which one you can go to. International students, especially Africans, spoke to us about spaces of worship, and one of those was an international space. So my friends and I, we went to check it out. We turned up and it was African-led with music and preaching familiar to our context. I remember as we shopped around, there was a week-long conference where Pastor David Yonggi Cho, a South Korean Pentecostal pastor, came to conduct a mission for a whole week. And Pastor Cho is the founder of Yoido Full Gospel Church. I did not become a regular person to that church because the things that were said and done are things that I was running away from in the context where I was working in Kenya. So I never became a regular member because I did not feel at home. It was a very patriarchal, and the readings of the text made me uncomfortable. Although the leadership was African, it was from one part of Africa, and I just found it difficult. So I went shopping around and worshipped where I would feel comfortable in the different traditions in Edinburgh. That is one example I want to give. The second aspect is I went to Holland and was visiting friends and stayed for a while, and we went to a Reformed church, a Dutch Reformed church in Holland. In the church that we went to, of course, the services were in Dutch, so my friends would interpret for me. But in the afternoon, there was a church, they said, is a Ghanaian church. Do you want to go to that? And they described this as being lively. They have drums and they dress with very wonderful clothes, very, very smart. But they met in the same building with the Dutch Reformed Church, but met after the Reformed Church. And as many of you would know, those who introduced me said it's a Ghanaian church. Of course, it's like I was Ghanaian myself. But they spoke in one of the Ghanaian dialects, and it was inclusive of young and old people. I didn't join, I didn't participate because the language was alien to me as well. I wish to draw some lessons on mission, immigration, and African Christianity And maybe some of the things I've said can resonate with most of us in the webinar. Immigrant churches will not become mainline churches, neither their liturgy and or their theology. I contend that. The notion of reverse mission needs to be problematized a bit more. I talk about reverse mission, and those sincere would remember the works of Michael Nazirali in terms of mission from everywhere to everywhere. I have had people who say Europe needs to be evangelized. Others call it reverse mission or re-evangelizing Europe. I see that African Christianity has little or no inroads into the European space. The notion of reverse mission is not new, as I've said in the earlier days, works of Michael Nazirali and others talking about from everywhere to everywhere, challenging the North-South or South-North missions, and missions being spaces where people tell each other the gospel from everywhere. There are those who have observed that the interplay of mission, migration, and African Christianity has reshaped global Christianity, particularly through African migrant churches in the Western context, often framed within the reverse mission narrative. These churches are seen as re-evangelizing post-Christian societies in Europe and North America, the works of Adedivo, for example. However, when I think about it from where I sit, I note that this narrative oversimplifies the power dynamics perpetuating the colonial legacies of inequality and marginalization, as the works of Mignolo shows. When I think about the whole notion of immigrant churches, I think we need to problematize it a bit more to offer more critique, because migrant churches are not treated as equal in Western ecclesiological landscapes. They remain largely composed of migrants with few or no white members, even in UK, for example. I was reminded of working in Kenya in earlier days in a community with the two tribal communities. Tribe A had evangelized Tribe B. When there's a position of leadership, a member of Tribe B qualified to become a leader. Tribe A was shocked that someone from Tribe B would be their leader. And their argument was, we just evangelized them the other day. How can they become leaders? And that is the way I see the immigrant churches. Even the name immigrant churches for me is pejorative, because immigrants are described in many ways. I think they are, in some species, they are aliens. When you think of who is an alien, what is the image of an alien? So how can refugees or immigrants influence Christianity? They were just colonized and Christianity was taught to them, as if you think of ways sometimes Christianity is taught. And all of a sudden, they come to evangelize us. They are under us. Is it the same Christianity they bring back? Or what Christianity are they going to teach us? They qualified to teach us. So as I've noted, the notion of inequality and lack of being included in what is the main churches, especially in Europe. So this reverse mission, these immigrant churches, is for me problematic, particularly if you look at it maybe through decolonial lenses.